the roll call.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. This will be my first time to call both bodies roll call, so I hope I'll get all the planning commissioners correctly. Nice to see all of you. Planning Commissioner Ablaza, as noted, seems to be absent. Commissioner Ablaza, are you present by phone? No, okay, absent. Planning Commissioner Chuan?
Here, present.
Planning Commissioner Bilang? See you. Planning Commissioner Albana?
Present.
Planning Commissioner Alcorn?
Present.
Planning Commissioner Chua?
Here.
And Planning Commissioner Tao?
Here, thank you.
Actually, I believe I should refer to you as Chair Steve Tao.
Yes,
you're,
yes.
you're present. Okay, 6 planning commissioners are present, 1 is absent. Councilmember Fan?
Present.
Councilmember Montano?
Here.
Councilmember Dominguez?
Present.
Vice Mayor Nunez?
Present.
And Mayor Tran?
Here, thank you so much, Mary. Thank you, thank you. All right, next up here, we're gonna keep this thing going. Pledge of Allegiance.
Hold on, City Clerk, I'm here, Ricky Ablaza.
Oh, there he is. There's
Hey,
he's here.
Ricky.
He's here.
As noted for the roll call.
Okay, Ricky, if I could ask folks where you're at, please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance tonight. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our Planning Commissioner, Ricky Ablaza.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ablaza. Okay, here, next is the public forum. Tonight, we're going to focus on the agenda. And so I'll go to our city clerk, Mary Lavelle, for any public comments for this forum. For
Mr.
tonight's
Mayor,
forum.
this is Martin from the City Attorney's Office.
Oh, wait there, yeah, yeah.
You mind if I just make a clarification regarding public comment for tonight? So just noting on the record for the council, the planning commissioners and staff that since this is a special meeting, we will only be taking public comment on the item listed tonight on tonight's agenda, which is the general plan item.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. And I just want to take a moment here too, to mention something before I forget. I hate to forget, but for the rest of this meeting, I want to ask every single commissioner and council member if you're not speaking, to mute your microphone to respect the person that's speaking, whether it's staff or your colleagues. I know we have a lot of people, and so I think it'll be important to mute our microphones just because we have so many people here, which is awesome. I love it. And so, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up before I forget. But whenever you're ready to speak, turn your microphone on, absolutely. Okay, moving on to the public forum. Mary, what do we have?
Mayor, there are some comments that have been received, but they are not concerning the general plan. So my advice from the attorney today was that I'm not to read any comments unless they're very specifically about the agenda item due to it being a special meeting.
Okay, all right. And you could forward those over to the city attorney with us tonight. And we appreciate your due diligence so much. Okay, are there any other comments I would love to hear? No, okay. All right, moving on here. Announcement of conflict of interest and campaign contributions. Mr. City Attorney.
At this time, I'd ask the mayor, council members, and planning commissioners whether he or she has any financial or personal conflict of interest related to any of the items on tonight's special meeting agenda. Shall I just, go down the roll, each name? Councilmember Fan.
None.
Councilmember Montano.
None.
Councilmember Dominguez.
None.
Vice Mayor Nunez.
None.
Mayor Tran.
None.
And Commissioner Albana.
None.
Commissioner Belong.
None.
Commissioner Ablaza.
None.
Commissioner Chwand,
None.
Commissioner Chua,
None.
Vice Chair Alcorn,
None.
and Chair Tao.
None.
Let the record reflect none to that question for all members.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. City Attorney. That's the announcement of conflict of interest and campaign contributions too, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, just want to confirm. Great. All right, next up, the approval of agenda. Pretty simple tonight, folks.
I move-
Yep, go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I just wanted to move approval of the agenda.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by the Vice Mayor, we got a second by Councilmember Dominguez. All in favor? Well, I guess the council can just go ahead and vote on this one. Virtual roll call, Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Councilmember Dominguez, pardon me, Councilmember Montano.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
Approval agenda. We're
Oh,
doing the
Yes, I
vote.
approve. Yes, I approve.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Dominguez,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Nunez,
Aye.
and myself as an aye. Thank you very much. The agenda is approved. And that brings us to community development. Let's conduct a joint study session with the Milpitas Planning Commission and receive a presentation on draft 2040 Milpitas General Plan. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce our Director of Planning, Ned Thomas.
There we go. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council, and also welcome to the Planning Commissioners. We're glad to be with you tonight all together. It's wonderful to see all of your faces together. We usually meet with you separately, but I've been looking forward to having this type of a joint meeting for a long time. I'm, of course, Ned Thomas, your Planning Director, and we're happy to be here with you tonight in this special joint study session to present the draft Milpitas General Plan. Have my copy. Oh, that's then I have my copy here, but it's going to get blend into my background. Unfortunately, we have hard copies for all of you. We will be distributing those within the next few days as soon as we can get into City Hall and get those around to you. We have with us tonight our planning manager, Jessica Garner, who has been the project manager for the general plan. And of course, she's been working with our consultant from De Novo Planning, Ben Ritchie, who's also here with us tonight to make a brief presentation, and then we'll entertain questions and comments, and we'll go from there. Again, we appreciate your time tonight. I know there were other important matters going on, but we want to keep the general plan moving forward so that we can bring it to you for formal hearings. Both hearing for a recommendation from the Planning Commission will likely occur in November after the required public review period for the environmental impact report. And then we will also have hearings with the council either in December or January for final adoption of the general plan. And we're working toward that schedule. But for tonight, we'll have a presentation of the draft plan, and then it will be available to you for additional comment. And I'll turn the time over to Mr. Ritchie from De Novo Planning for our presentation tonight. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ned. It's a pleasure to be here with everybody this evening. So looks like IT is going to run my PowerPoint for me. So we'll go ahead and go next slide. All right. So our purpose of this meeting this evening is to present the draft general plan to both the City Council and the Planning Commission. We're here to answer any of your questions and receive whatever feedback you may have at this stage. And I do want to reiterate, as I'll talk about more this evening, there's going to be ample opportunity for additional review from the Planning Commission and the City Council, as well as members of the public. And part of our purpose this evening is also to announce to the public that the draft general plan is now available for a public review and comment period. And so we'll get some additional word out through the project website and through various city channels on making sure that that document is widely distributed throughout the community. Next slide, please.
I have a question. Is this the time for a question? So is this the time where we make recommendations if we want to make some changes to the general plan, or is this just a stamp and approve?
No, so we are not asking for any formal action from either body this evening. So we're not asking for any approvals from either the Planning Commission or the City Council. If you have specific concerns that you would like addressed before the document is reviewed by the public, by all means, you can bring those up this evening. If you have other more nuanced concerns or things that you would like to see fixed or changed before adoption, you have at least 2 more months. We'll talk a little bit more
Okay.
about schedule, but we'll be in the 6 to 8 week range before we're even talking about coming back to the council for adoption hearings. So there is ample opportunity to get your thoughts organized. As staff, we always prefer things in writing. It helps us be clear on what we're looking for. So however you'd like to communicate those changes through staff to me, it's at your convenience, council member.
Okay, thank you, Bert.
Okay, so our overall organization for this evening, I'm going to provide you with a pretty concise PowerPoint here tonight. We'll talk about the process to develop the draft general plan. This has been a few years in the making. Provide a summary of what's in the document and what topics are covered. We'll talk about next steps in the process in terms of our path forward and a general time frame. And again, this is an opportunity to answer council and planning commission questions and receive any direction or input you have in terms of the document. Next slide, please. So just a quick refresher introduction. As everybody is aware, a general plan is required by state law. Every city and county in California is required to have an adopted general plan. The last time Milpitas did a comprehensive update was all the way back in 1994. So you're overdue. Typically, you want to do these every 15, maybe 20 years, but you guys, you have an aged plan. It's had some targeted updates over the years, but the last comprehensive overhaul was all the way back in 1994. Generally, this general plan has a 20-year planning horizon. So we're looking out forward into the year 2040. And what we've done with this update is we've done a full overhaul of your existing general plan, but there was some very good goals and primary policy objectives from your existing general plan that were still applicable. So we didn't throw the whole thing out. We kept what was working, but we've done a full overhaul. We've modernized it. We've made it fully consistent with state law and state requirements. We've incorporated best practices, and we've done a lot of listening to the community to make sure that this general plan really reflects this city's goals and priorities for the next 20 years, and that it's going to be a flexible living document that should serve you well for the next 2 decades. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick graphic showing an overview of our work program. There's been a lot of milestone stages and steps that we've completed to get to this point in time. So we started out by identifying community priorities. We did a number of visioning workshops. We prepared a very detailed existing conditions report. We prepared a number of issues and opportunities memos and white papers that were very instrumental in your GPAC, your General Plan Advisory Committee's work together. We prepared a very detailed land use alternatives report. This gave us an opportunity to look at possible changes to your land use map and prepare a comparative analysis so we could make informed decisions. We worked very closely with your GPAC to develop the goals, policies, and programs, and also the land use map. And if I may take a moment, I would really like to commend the city on appointing a very dedicated and excellent, high-quality GPAC group. I've worked with a lot of communities, cities, and counties throughout California. This was an excellent group. They attended meetings, they did their homework, they provided thoughtful input, and they reviewed and commented on every single one of the goals and policies throughout the general plan. So I'm just very pleased with how this group came together, stuck with it, and the results of their work together are the draft general plan, which is the document you have before you today. And then some of our last stage tasks are completion of the environmental impact report, which is essentially done. We just provided staff with a review copy today. And ultimately, after public review, this will come back to the Planning Commission and City Council for a series of public hearings and adoption. Next slide, please. So in addition to these various milestone stages, this is a slightly repetitive slide, but we've had a number of deliverables associated with these. So we had our community workshop summary report, our existing conditions report, an existing conditions summary magazine. It took that 450-page existing conditions report and condensed it down into something we can actually read and digest, lots of graphics and maps. As I mentioned, a series of issues memos for the GPAC. We had our land use alternatives report. We have the City Council's preferred land use map, and I'll talk about how we got to that map on a subsequent slide. The GPAC developed a number of policy sets, which we then converted into the draft general plan. And as I mentioned, we've nearly completed the draft EIR. Next slide, please. So I know the council has made it very clear from the outset that public communication, public outreach, and making sure that this document reflects the values and priorities of the Milpitas community has been a very high priority for this council as well as the Planning Commission. So to that end, we did 3 dedicated visioning workshops when we kicked off this project in the fall of 2016. We held a total of 13 meetings with the GPAC, all of which were open to the public, and there were opportunities for public comment and input. We've published a series of project newsletters, making sure that the public has access to information, updates on where we are in the process. And one of our key resources for outreach and communication has been the project website. So that's milpitas.generalplan.org. This is a full clearinghouse of all of the milestone documents we've prepared, meeting notices, PowerPoint presentations such as this one. So it's really a one-stop shop for all of the compiled information that's evolved throughout the lifespan of this project. We are planning to do a series of virtual public workshops over the next couple of months to give the public additional opportunity to ask questions and provide input on the draft general plan. So those are in the works now. And then of course, we'll be coming back for a series of public hearings with both the Planning Commission and the Council at the end of 2020 towards adoption of the general plan. Next slide, please. So in terms of the general plan document itself and what's in it. So the state of California mandates that we include 7 mandatory elements in each general plan. These include land use, circulation, conservation, and in Milpitas's case, we've combined the topic of sustainability with conservation. We're required to do safety, noise, open space. And again, in Milpitas, in open space, we've also combined that with the topic of parks and recreation. And you're also required to have a certified housing element. Now, the city already has a certified housing element that's been approved by HCD, and that's good through the year 2023. So we are not updating the housing element at this time, but a couple of years from now, you will need to update your housing element to meet your new regional housing needs allocation numbers. The city also has a tremendous amount of discretion in terms of optional elements that are important to the community that you may elect to include in your general plan. So for the general plan before you today, we've included the optional elements of community design, economic development, utilities and services, health and wellness, and we also have an implementation chapter, and that helps identify the department responsibilities for implementing various actions, the time frame for implementation, and it will help serve as a roadmap to make sure that your general plan's objectives and goals actually come to fruition. So even though these are optional elements, once they're included and then adopted as part of your general plan, those policies and actions hold the same weight, regulatory weight within the city as the mandatory elements. So just because economic development is optional and land use is mandatory, again, once adopted, those policies all hold equal weight within the planning document itself. Next slide, please. So the draft general plan itself, it incorporates all of the policy sets that were developed by the GPAC, reviewed by the GPAC, and then modified based on the GPAC's input. It includes the City Council's preferred land use map, which you'll recall we settled on back in October of last year, and I'll talk a little bit more about that on a subsequent slide. And then our job as your professional consultants was to make sure that your general plan not only reflects your community values and priorities, your GPAC's direction, your council direction, but that it meets all of the applicable requirements of state law. The state passes a number of planning laws each year, and the Office of Planning and Research completely overhauled the general plan guidelines in 2017. And so our job was to make sure that the draft plan we've delivered to you checks all the appropriate boxes, meets all the requirements of state law, but is still very much customized to Milpitas's goals and priorities. So this is very much a document tailored to your community's vision for itself. Next slide, please. So in terms of the land use map, so our general plan is made up of these various elements that I talked about on a previous slide, and it also contains a land use map, which identifies a land use designation for each and every single parcel within the city of Milpitas. Land use designations are similar to zoning, but they're a little bit broader. Zoning provides a little bit more specificity, but essentially a land use designation defines what's an allowable use on each property and the general density or intensity that that use can occur on. So to develop your updated land use map, we first asked the community about the map during our initial visioning workshops. So at each of the 3 visioning workshops to kick off this project, we had community members in groups. Back when we used to get to meet in person, we circled up around maps, we had our markers out, and we did a lot of identifying of key areas, opportunities, areas to preserve, areas to emphasize possible change. Then as we took that information and presented it to the GPAC, over the course of multiple meetings, the General Plan Advisory Committee members provided additional input and feedback in terms of possible changes to your land use map. We then took all of that input and we took it to the City Council preliminarily in March of 2018. So the council went through a similar set of activities where you marked up the map, we talked about priority areas, and we took that council feedback and we packaged it up into the Land Use Alternatives Report. So this was a detailed, robust analysis of, okay, here's our potential change areas. Here are the implications in terms of fiscal conditions, job growth, traffic implications, population and housing growth. And all of that information was put into the Land Use Alternatives Report. We then returned to council in May of 2019 and presented the Land Use Alternatives Report, and we walked through each of the 14 key opportunity areas and discussed them in detail. Council was in agreement for the majority of our recommendations, but there were some additional areas that needed refinement and further discussion. So we returned to the council in October of 2019, presented some additional ideas, and at the conclusion of the October 2019 meeting, the full council expressed unanimous support for the land use map that had been developed. And along the way, as we were developing this map, we made sure we incorporated various staff input and observation, our professional consultant recommendations based on best practices that we've observed or recommended in other communities throughout the state. And we also made sure we folded in key findings from our market analysis. One of the objectives the council has expressed to us consistently throughout this is to make sure Milpitas is regionally competitive in terms of attracting high-wage job growth and tech industry employment opportunities. So again, this was the path to developing the land use map that's included in your draft general plan. Next slide, please. So as we were developing this land use map, there were a number of big picture goals and priorities that we kept in mind as sort of our compass or our radar to make sure we were getting these map calibrations correct. So some of these big picture goals and priorities included protecting your existing established residential neighborhoods, opportunities to spur job growth and economic development by making the city more competitive and attracting large-scale employers, revitalizing existing neighborhood commercial centers by allowing for limited housing and expanded retail and office potential, making sure that we complement and support recent and ongoing planning and development efforts. So examples of that include your Metro specific plan update and the Gateway Main Street specific plan update. Looking for opportunities to reduce existing and future land use conflicts by transitioning select areas from industrial manufacturing to more mixed use residential. Making sure that we optimize land uses near transit. And this doesn't just mean the Metro specific plan area and your new BART station, but all of the VTA light rail stations and the key VTA bus corridors. So making sure that we've looked at uses that provide good ridership opportunities. So not just multifamily housing, but also employment. And then making sure that we protect and strengthen the viability of the city's industrial lands. You've got a very valuable resource in your industrial core, and we wanted to make sure we didn't do anything that would erode that jobs base and that economic employment base for the city. Next slide, please. And this is most likely a very familiar slide, but the city council priorities that have been established for a couple of years now, these were presented and provided to us very early on in the process. And as we developed both the land use map and the various goals and policies in each of your general plan elements, we made sure that the council priorities were addressed throughout, and we didn't do anything that would conflict with these. But more importantly, we strove to further these priorities throughout all of the development of all the goals and policies throughout the general plan. Next slide, please. All right, well, I appreciate you bearing with me because that was a mouthful for me to walk through kind of a presentation of essentially what's in the general plan in terms of topics and the key land use map. So as we talk about next steps moving forward, right now, staff and our team is hard at work completing the draft EIR that's required under CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. As soon as that draft EIR is done and is print ready, we will release it for a mandatory 45-day public review and comment period. During that time, we'll be holding public workshops on both the EIR and the general plan. So that's an opportunity for us to really connect with the community, answer questions, get their feedback, make sure we got it right, and then report back to the Planning Commission and the council in terms of what the community told us. And we're tentatively scheduled or planning to come to the Planning Commission in November of this year. And we'll be seeking a recommendation for approval of the general plan to the City Council. In addition, we'll be receiving any Planning Commission comments based on your review of the general plan. So you'll have had, again, another 6 to 7 weeks for all of you to really dig a little bit deeper into this. And as we come back for subsequent hearings, Planning Commissioners and City Council members will have additional opportunity to make refinements to the general plan as it's been drafted. And we are striving to get before the council before the end of 2020. But the schedule is really driven by our mandatory comment periods for the CEQA process and the EIR. We're cutting it very close to get to you before the end of 2020. We're doing our best, and that's a goal of the whole team. It may extend into early 2021, but that's the general path forward as we work our way through this process. So that concludes my formal presentation. And at this stage, I'll turn it back over to the mayor, and I am happy to answer any questions or receive any feedback or additional input. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thank you for the presentation. Pardon me, I had to black out my screen. I was having dinner, and so it was a really great dinner watching you with your presentation. But I just want to say how special it is to be a part of this in our city's history. Like our staff has stated, we haven't had an update, I think since '94, was it? Or over 10 years ago, I can say that safely. And so it's just really exciting. And I've encouraged members of our community to take a look at the website for our general plan. And we are all really, I think, blessed to be appointed or in the seats that we are, because we get to be a part of this update. So as we move forward in the next several weeks and few months, I encourage my colleagues to continue to email our staff with any particular inputs or feedback so that we can really play a role in this plan update and put some eyes on it. I think we're all really deep as commissioners and council members in this community, and we get feedback all the time from our residents. And I think we all know very well the areas that need an update. And so this is really the document for that. So I appreciate Ben and Ned and Ms. Garner and all the folks planning department and city manager's office for guiding this through. And just to get to this point it took a lot of hard work, and like Ben said, we're not there yet, but if we all work together, it'll be a great endpoint. So let's go to the virtual raised hands. Folks, wherever you're at home or your office, feel free to raise your virtual raised hands, and we'll get the conversation going tonight. So first up, Vice Mayor Bob Nunez.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So I just have two questions, Ben, and one, this actually was a good sort of synopsis of where we've been, and I'm thankful for that. I have been following it. I know that our city manager and Ned have told me over and over again, the most important document in any city is the general plan. So my first question, and it really is, it sort of hit me on I think let's see, I want to get the 7 to 13. The public workshops that started back in like September through November of 2016. 4 years to get to this point. Is that the normal sort of 4.5 years, the timeline to, because I don't know, to do a general plan? That's my first question.
That is a little bit longer than typical. I would say the typical general plan, when it all goes very smoothly, is usually more in the 3-year range. So We're approximately 1 year over the optimal. I haven't personally been involved, but there are some war stories in the planning community of 6 and 8 years, but we're looking at 4 years and it's not too far off the average.
Okay. And then on the very last page, and I'm just trying to make sure I understand this part correct. The public review, I think it's the second bullet. Public review of the draft of the general plan and the IR. So is that the public workshop, has that part already been done, or is that something we still need to do?
At its core, that is something that we are imminently ready to start. So I'll give a slightly nuanced answer. In August, so last month, we published the draft general plan as part of the GPAC's packet. So we put the draft together, we presented it to the GPAC. Those meetings are open to the public, so it became part of the public record in its draft form. But we hadn't formally announced to the community that the public review period had started. But if someone were savvy or interested, it was available on the website, and we certainly weren't hiding the document. The plan is, as soon as the EIR is done, we are going to send out notices and just announce to the community, public review has started. But it's out there now for people that can find it, but we're going to formally start it in the next couple of weeks.
Is there going to be like a public Zoom meeting where persons can come in, have a presentation somewhat, and then ask questions, or is the expectation that they're going to go read it and then just send you written comments?
We always appreciate written comments. We are planning to hold a minimum of one, if not multiple, public meetings, very much in similar Zoom formats. And our intent really is to be open, communicative, answer questions, and get feedback. This is the community's document, and the better they understand it and the more direction and feedback they can give us, the better. And then we're looking forward to sharing that feedback with you to get the council and the planning commission's direction. But yes, multiple opportunities from here forward before adoption for public input.
Okay, so I have to tell you, I learned a lot about just all the processes we go through, and more about the city watching this process than any other. So now I know why the city manager and Ned talked about this being the document if you're going to do anything to really look at the process and this document. So I know at the onset, I think we did not see, Ben, you and I did not see eye to eye. And I think that was more my ignorance of the process and what it was supposed to be doing. And I think after 4 years, hopefully I'm a little smarter at least. But now that I see where we've ended up, I really need to commend you for taking us all the way through and educating at least me and members of the community that I saw in those meetings when we still actually could meet. To me, it is a good history lesson and a projection of where we want to be. So thank you. I just think it's really good reading for those that want to know where we are looking to go. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. You've held us accountable to a high standard from day one, and we've worked very hard to live up to that. So I appreciate you setting the bar high from day one. So thank you for those comments.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And going down the column of virtual raised hand, next up we have our chair, Mr. Tao.
Apologies on the unmuting. First of all, on behalf of Planning Commission, I'd like to thank Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, and our senior staff and consultants to join you this evening on this joint meeting so that we can all discuss and share the thoughts on this living document that for a city that we call home for the coming years. My comment really is to the consultant and staff is really, as we're kind of moving through this COVID process and going forward in this brave new world that we don't know how it's going to shape out, we appreciate having the maximum amount lateral flexibility to allow for the for uses, that which are going to be comparable and compatible, within the settings, so that the prospective uses, as it may be relevant in the years in the post-COVID days, that with the changing landscape in retail and also in office settings, that we're not really forcing the prospective applicants, if there's a worthwhile project coming before the city, to allow them the ability to come in here and go through the planning process and scrutiny and the community participation, so that they don't have to go through the high hurdle of the general plan amendment to go through it. So maintain that flexibility and maintain that lateral flexibility in the spectrum of uses for us going forward will be a great consideration. Thank you.
And
Thank you very much, Chair.
I'll just say very briefly, I have gotten very similar questions and comments from a number of cities and counties throughout California, and I've been giving consistent advice and stay the course, be flexible. And, Mr. Chair, I think you hit on all of the key points I would have tried to provide in a response. So I think that was a very astute comment in terms of providing flexibility. Let's see what happens to the various retail and office markets. And I think we've drafted a plan that provides you with that level of flexibility while still maintaining an appropriate course for the city. So I found that was a very astute comment. Thank you.
Awesome. Really great to see our folks here at the city, the Planning Commission, have this discussion with Ben. A lot of great positive feedback tonight. I always watch the Planning Commission meeting, and I feel like I get to be in it right now. I feel like I'm a part of the Planning Commission right now. This will be my opportunity tonight. So thank you, Chair. Next up, we have Councilmember Carmen Montano.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. Mr. Consultant, Bert, you mentioned that in 2019, was it November? Yeah, no, 2019, we had a workshop. And I think that was the one at the Senior Center where you showed all the maps, the whole city, what the zone, not the zoning, but the land use. And we had made some recommendations. So I thought today that was going to be where you were going to show us that information. Is that after the EIR?
So you are correct. The October 2019 meeting was our third and the culmination of our 3 land use map workshops with the council. All of the recommendations that you made at that final meeting have been incorporated into the map that is included in the general plan. So I have brought it back to you in the form of a cleaned up, updated land use map that reflects all of your direction and input from that meeting.
Okay, and then during that time, and then the other thing, so you mentioned that in November, it will come back, but I'm just curious because right now, October is just a couple of days away. And you said that there's going to be multiple community meetings. So I'm wondering in that short time frame, when is that going to happen and where? And
Sure.
It just seems like it's really tight. So can you explain?
Yes, absolutely. It's a very, very good question. So it is a compressed time frame as we look from today towards the finish line. So we are striving to get the draft EIR released sometime in October. I would love that to be in the middle of October. It's a 650-page technical document, and I dropped it on staff this morning. So they have their work cut out for them to help review it. We are striving to get that out in mid to late October. And then we are required to do a minimum 45-day review and comment period. So that'll take us through the second half of October and all the way through November. So when I mentioned hearings in November, that would be with the Planning Commission to receive or to hopefully provide a recommendation to council. we wouldn't be ready to come to council before the middle of December for the formal hearings. So we would have the second half of October and the entire month of November to schedule and conduct not only community meetings, but also a planning commission hearing. And this is where the calendar just gets a little bit tricky. If I were to look at a calendar and pick the optimal date for a hearing based on the timings of the different reports, it would probably be December 26th. Doubt we're holding meetings on December 26th. So if we're able to slide it in before the Christmas break, we will. If it slides into early 2021 in January, we'll be ready to go at the council's convenience as soon as the calendar allows for it. So it just kind of gets compressed right there around the holidays for the end of the year. But that's the general time frame. So from mid-October through the end of November is when we would expect to hold those community meetings to gather additional input and feedback.
And how many are those that you plan on having?
I think at this point, we'll define it further with staff. I think at this point, we would plan to have 2.
And what will these meetings entail? Will they show the maps?
Absolutely. So we're slightly hamstrung by this world that we're in now. So I can share the screen and show a map of the city. But when I put Milpitas on a 13-inch screen, it can be challenging. But the maps are on the website. The maps are in the general plan. Anybody interested in the maps, they are out there on the internet right now on the project website. And we've tried to make them very prominent and easy to find. And so we will be presenting the general plan and the maps to the community. And much like this, answering questions, receiving feedback, and just making sure people understand it and can provide meaningful comments based on how they respond to it.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's my my concern is that this is a public document and it's a public process. So I just want to make sure that the community has the opportunity to make recommendations and so forth. That's my concern.
Absolutely.
Since, it's their city and they should have a say so, and it shouldn't just be the city council. It should be the whole city, and that's what I just want to make sure that happens.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. And when we come back to both the Planning Commission and the City Council later in this process, we will have a very detailed staff report with a summary of the community input that we received during the comment period, so that the Council and the Planning Commission is fully aware of everything that we heard.
Okay, and then so those comments from the community, will they be given to us?
Yes, they will. And then
Okay.
what we will do is we will have a discussion with the council and the commission on, we may get some comments where the council looks at it and says, you know what, that's a fantastic idea. We should make changes to the general plan. And then we may very well get some comments that the council, appreciates the input, but doesn't choose to make changes. So we'll be looking to the council to tell us how to change or not change the general plan based on what we heard.
Okay, great. I like that. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Councilmember Montano. We're going to go down the column here. Next up, Councilmember Fan.
Ben, great job as usual. Really enjoyed the presentation. This is really a long time coming, folks. It's been, I think, 4 years for this general plan update. I'd say, I don't know if tight would be the term that I would use to describe that. I certainly am looking forward for us to expedite and move along. But maybe I'm just an impatient guy. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that we get a high quality product that we're voting on for the general plan, and I have complete confidence that you're going to be able to get us there. Just real briefly, how has this pandemic situation affected our consideration for some of the elements in the general plan, if it has caused us to diverge in any way? And are we considering into the equation in the future for public health, unforeseen public health crises such as this, where we really have to think about the best uses, particularly as it pertains to private open space?
Excellent questions. We've had, for better or worse, the final push to really button up and polish up the general plan occurred over the last 6 months when we were in the midst of the pandemic. And so it gave us an opportunity to take a second glance at policies and direction that we had been working on for the past 3 or so plus years. Jessica and Ned worked very closely with my team to make sure that we had a very robust and strong community health and wellness element. I think if this pandemic has shown us anything, it's that we can get caught out of left field by things we did not necessarily anticipate. So I don't want to I don't want to overstate the power of a general plan to have a crystal ball and respond to the next set of 2020 conditions. But in terms of what's been thrown at us this year, we address everything from emergency response plans to fire safety, to adequate police protection, to ample parks and open space, to a multimodal transportation network that serves all users, not just single passenger cars and transit riders, but bicyclists and pedestrians and bus riders and everything in between. And then, as the Planning Commission Chair was noting, what we've really tried to do with this document is provide a lot of flexibility so that as we continue to see nuanced changes to your commercial retail situation, I mean, those changes, the Amazon effect was happening pre-pandemic. I think the pandemic has accelerated that to a greater extent. But I also see us coming out of this, and I see a return to movies. I see a return to dining out. I see a return to experiential retail. I think there's going to be a number of large employers that still see value in having employees come to work, especially once you start to assess a couple of years of the bottom line with remote working. So we haven't done a dramatic left turn in response to COVID. We definitely did not hit the panic button, but the timing allowed us to go back through and reflect on the policies we've written and make sure that they're still going to serve you well for the next 20 years, given all the change we've seen this year.
Thank you. That was very insightful response. Appreciate it.
Very well. Thank you very much, Councilmember Fan. Next up, we have Commissioner Chuan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a question for Mr. Ritchie. Thanks again for the presentation. So I went on the website, the milpitas.generalplan.org, and then so you had mentioned several of the upcoming events. Will those be published in on that website that you mentioned?
Yes, they will. Yes, they will. We have not established dates yet, so I didn't have a date and time certain to put on the website. But as soon as those are scheduled, they will be on the front page on the What's New sidebar. They'll be under the Meeting and Events sub-tab. So they'll be posted in multiple locations on that website very prominently. And we'll also coordinate with staff to get those notices on the city's webpage as well. But yes, all meetings will be absolutely noticed on the general plan website.
And that same website that will include the all the content and the material from those meetings, as the other meetings have been already.
Yes. So what we'll have is, to the extent that meetings have agendas or a PowerPoint presentation that I'll be giving, those will get posted up as soon as the meeting ends. So for example, I'll be going into the office tomorrow morning and updating the website to post this evening's meeting information so that folks that weren't able to attend this live will be able to see the PowerPoint, and we can also provide links to the recording that's been being done tonight.
Okay. Just question as well is it possible that we could for the meetings that you did mention that are planned to be coming up, can those also be added into the meetings and events tab? Even if it's possible it could change, but it just sort of helps set a timeline.
Yes, we can absolutely do that. And I have a running list of the website has been updated just continuously over the last several years. So it seems every couple of weeks I've got things I need to update. So I'll make a note right now to, announce the imminent opening of the comment period on the EIR and the general plan, and that additional meetings and public opportunities will be available in the coming months, and check back for date certain.
Right. Thank you. That's all the question I had. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome, Commissioner Chuan. Thank you for very delightful questioning. And so next up here, we have from the Planning Commission, our chair. Oh, Mr. Chair, your microphone. I know you're so considerate of others, but we must hear your very deep voice. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the reminder. We appreciate it. So a question for Mr. Ritchie. As we progress through this, just say a prospective 20-year cycle for this general plan update, and with a state that continues to go through its growth process, especially in the South Bay area, do we have the potential prospective land base that which may meet the need of the state and the ABAG mandate for housing requirement allocated to each city?
Certainly. So that technical planning term is the RHNA, or the Regional Housing Needs Allocation. So the city of Milpitas and the larger ABAG region has not been issued the RHNA numbers quite yet. They are imminent and coming soon. So we don't know precisely what they will be. So the most direct answer I can give is we have not done a specific assessment of if you will be able to meet that RHNA number, because that number is still unknown. With that said, your general plan allows for and accommodates a notable amount of multifamily housing, which is usually what the state is looking for in terms of accommodating those lower income housing categories. And so having done this for a number of years, my gut tells me you are going to be very well positioned to demonstrate that you can meet your RHNA once those numbers come out. But there's a very specific opportunity sites analysis that needs to be done. It's a very specific planning analysis that will be done as part of your housing element in the next couple of years. And that will provide the tangible demonstration, the substantial supporting evidence to the state that you can meet your RHNA allocation. Again, I suspect that the map you have before you in your draft general plan will position you very well to do that. But we have not done the formal state required assessment of that. And that will happen in the next couple of years as part of your housing element update.
Generally, how long does it take to do that RHNA assessment once the state has put out a projected figure?
The whole housing element will generally take something like 6-8 months in that type of ballpark. Some cities, your professional planning staff knows this already. I advise clients start early rather than late. You can't. There's probably no surprise. We have a number of clients that get a very late start on their housing element, and there are state statutory guidelines or mandates on when they need to be certified and adopted. So once those RHNA numbers come out, get going on it. And the sooner you start, the less stress you'll have. But typically overall, the start to finish process on a housing element's in the 6 to 8 month range.
So looking back, say a decade time to give us enough data points, and using that as a history, and we look forward with it, what are some of the trends that you as the expert may impart in terms of for us to look forward to?
Well, based on some of the trends, so your historic growth rates are going to not have too much bearing in what numbers end up getting handed down from ABAG via the state. What we are seeing is that, so you're entering what's called the 6th cycle of your housing element. The numbers get higher each cycle, and the state, and especially our current administration, has made affordable housing and combating homelessness one of the marquee priorities of the current governor's administration. So I would expect your RHNA numbers to be higher than you have historically seen. And as I'm sure the Planning Commission and the Council is aware, a housing element does not require that the city construct these units. It requires that you demonstrate you have adequate land capacity to accommodate those units. And so you're going to be able to accommodate them through various locations throughout the city. Some will fall within your metro specific plan. Some will fall within the Gateway Main Street specific plan, and they will also be equitably distributed throughout other areas of the community so that you don't have over concentrations of low income neighborhoods in any one given geographic area of the city. So based on the densities allowed on your land use map and the ample opportunity for multifamily development, I believe Milpitas will be well positioned to demonstrate that you meet your RENA on this next housing cycle.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. And we're going to stick with the Planning Commission. Next up here, Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. I just want to say, Ben, I'm actually really impressed on how much you were able to get done through this COVID season. A lot of people didn't quite know what would be next, where they would be working, if they'd be able to work, and you seem to get a lot done. So that's really cool. I actually have a hard copy of the current general plan in my home office here. And so when I was looking over some of the materials, I would kind of look back to the current one and compare the two. And it's shaping up to be really good, really modern, and some good work put into there. I look forward to getting more into the weeds of that in the next meetings and the next kind of reviews and all that. But I have a question about the community outreach aspect, and it's very possible that I kind of glossed over this, but since we can't do any, or I assume for the rest of the year, we won't really be able to do any in-person community meetings or anything like that. Will we have a good solid way to reach those community members who aren't on social media or the website, like the ones who aren't using technology as much as others, like a mailer or posting an advertisement somewhere? Is there any plans on how to reach some of those community members?
That's an excellent question. Yeah, COVID has thrown a wrench, for better or worse. So I appreciate the comment on getting a lot of work done. I'm personally traveling to much fewer meetings, so I have more time to sit and type and actually get work done instead of driving to Milpitas this evening. There's been some opportunities there for efficiency. There are some options that we can definitely discuss with your professional staff there at the city in terms of the outreach. So we're going to look to the city manager's office and the planning departments in terms of providing some direction on how we do some of that additional outreach. I have absolutely done direct mailers in other communities. They get very pricey, but we can talk pros and cons in terms of, I'll take direction from the city. So there are a number of tools at our disposal. As it stands now, we have our scope and our budget in terms of our work plan, but, from a personal standpoint, community participation and outreach is very important to me. I know it's important to you guys, the council. I personally believe in that as well. So we'll work with planning staff to make sure that we're hitting multiple opportunities, and it can be everything from, physically posting newsletters and flyers in different locations in the community that are still open, and grocery stores and other essential services. So we can work with staff to make sure that we try and target those populations that don't necessarily have access to high-speed internet or the devices to participate via Zoom.
Good. I like that. Yeah, mailers can get pricey, but there's other options, and we have a great staff here, and I'm sure we'll find something. Maybe put it up on our new electronic sign near City Hall, and like you said, post it up in grocery stores is actually a great idea. I didn't think about that one. So, well, it's good to know that you're keeping that in mind, and you're going to work with our staff. So thank you, Mayor Tran.
You're welcome, Vice Mayor, Vice Chair, pardon me. Yeah, I know, first time running this type of meeting. So great. So anybody has a virtual raised hand, please lower it if you forgot to lower it. Just want to do a little quick check here. And I see our planning director, Ned. Ned, I don't think you need to put your virtual raised hand with your expertise and leadership in the planning department. I know sometimes you may need to, interject. And so please, Ned, feel free to do that. We really admire you. And so I do see your virtual raised hand, and so I look to you now.
Thank you. Just watching my meeting manners. I heard in another meeting tonight that people were talking over one another, and I certainly that behavior. No, I just wanted to add to, in response to the Vice Chair's question, that we have a number of outlets that we can use. In addition, we've become so reliant upon social media. It's very effective to get a lot of information out quickly, but we do still have a lot of, we'll call it traditional media that we can get out there. There is remaining, there's always built into a budget for a project like this, a certain amount of funds that can be used for advertising. And thankfully, the city has a new public information officer. We'll certainly be working very closely with her and with the city manager's office to put out information. We may do something like a press release. We'll continue to coordinate with them on getting the information out as broadly as we can. And we'll
Thank you
use
very
that.
much.
And we'll
Yeah,
use
thank
that.
you very much. Yes, very well, Ned. Thank you so much. Now I want to take a moment here to check in with our appointed and electeds. If anybody would like to speak, please raise your hand. I'm looking for folks in the screens. Okay, looks like Commissioner Chua, yes.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. For some reason, I can't find my virtual raise hand. So anyway, my question is, Mr. Ritchie, do you have an idea with the new general plan? Do you have an idea what percentage of it will be industrial and commercial?
In terms of the acreage, so what percentage of the city will be designated industrial versus commercial?
Right. What I'm really looking for is how much commercial and industrial we have now, and what would it be with the change, with the, how much more space do we have for economic, for industrial and commercial once the new general plan is approved or done?
So what I might suggest, so I have that information. You have multiple categories of commercial and multiple categories of industrial. So I could find them on my computer and start to read numbers off, but I don't know if it would resonate extremely well over this Zoom meeting. So what I can certainly do is follow up with staff and provide that information via email. And I can also tell you that as part of the EIR that we're wrapping up now, we've got summary tables that have exactly that information. Here's your current breakdown of acreage, number of parcels by land use. Here's the new map with a comparative breakdown. We have comparative tables on square footage of new non-residential growth, new job production. So those types of numbers we have definitely analyzed in detail. So rather than trying to just read them off to you during the meeting, I can absolutely provide that, and you can have it in writing and really study it.
What I'm really looking for is to make sure that we have enough industrial and commercial land with the new general plan. As you know, there's a percentage of what we need in order to sustain the services that we have for our residents. And that's really what I'm looking for. If you can include that in your information, I would appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think Mr. Ritchie's gonna, that's what I'm hearing from him. I think Mr. Ritchie's gonna definitely provide us that information. If we can even put in a memo to show with the general plan update and kind of the zoning, kind of optimal level of development, what that could possibly look like. That'd be pretty neat to see the kind of present and future possibility. That'd be pretty neat to see how much more square footage our city can get. Obviously building appropriately higher with particular types of zones. I know it's kind of asking for a lot, but this is a heavy document, and so thank you, Mr. Ritchie.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, it's not we've done that heavy lift already, so it's really just a matter of pulling that together and getting it to you in a nice, neat package, but we've done the math and we've got that.
Yep. So that's pretty cool.
That is great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie, and thank you, Mayor Tran.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We should have more of these meetings. I love being with the Planning Commission as well. And so, okay, well, I'm looking on the panelist list for any virtual raise hands. Any further comment, input? I know this is one meeting along a series towards our mutual and collective destination. and Mr. Ritchie and our staff planning department are always available. And same goes to all folks tuning in tonight. Shout out to everybody tuning in tonight that's probably watching the presidential debate as well, or maybe not watching the presidential debate, but thanks for tuning in with us here on Facebook and YouTube. Please feel free to reach out to our, I want to say planning director, Ned Thomas, on this one. With the general plan update, definitely a lot of interest in this across Milpitas, and it's really going to make a change here in town for the better, I think. And so, okay, I see a virtual raised hand. Sometimes I just blabber until someone raises their hand. So the first person to do that is Councilmember Montano.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. No, I just wanted to mention that this general plan is a living document, and I really look forward to community input. Just because we're saying we've already made the draft and we've already made our recommendations does not mean that it is a final draft. And so I recommend any people in the public that are watching, when the time comes, I would love for you to put your input into making some recommendations, because this is your general plan, this is your community, and any recommendations will be taken to heart. So just want to make sure that this is just want to ensure that this is a living document and it can be changed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Montano. Next up from the Planning Commission, our chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for Mr. Ritchie. As we kind of go through the land use generations, the density levels tend to increase, and because of the transportation model changes and whatnot. With our industrial stock, in the city, we still have a significant stock of called the older gen from the 1970s through early 90s versions. And any thoughts on the more efficient use of our industrial land base, so that we're able to better capture the land base? We can't fill that. We don't have any ocean fronts to fill in anymore. So probably finding ways to create more square footage or more efficient use.
Mr. Chair, it's a very astute comment, and that's something we discussed specifically at length with the GPAC. So to that end, on your land use map, we were very protective of the acreages of your industrial land base, making sure we didn't chip away at those. It's very difficult to recapture industrial land once you've designated it something else. So first and foremost, we were protective of the acreage. And secondly, we have tried to provide development flexibility. So the most direct answer I can give is the general plan calls for a doubling of the allowed floor area ratio in your industrial and manufacturing parcels. And so the idea being it hopefully maintains its industrial manufacturing use, but you can start to see more of the modern intensified uses with high cube warehouses and the more use of robotics technology. And so we've tried, again, going back to the theme you were discussing earlier, Sarah, about flexibility. So we've tried to protect those lands, provide more flexibility, and give the market more opportunity to develop modern uses on those industrial lands.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Chair. And Mr. Ritchie, knocking down the questions each and every time. I want to take a moment here to recognize all our attendees, city staff, department directors, chiefs. Thank you for being here with us tonight. I know oftentimes folks log in, our leaders log in, and we don't want you to go unnoticed. And so I just want to recognize our department directors. Okay, great. I see a virtual raised hand. Councilmember Fan.
I don't know how many public comments came in, but if it's not that much, I feel like we could, out of courtesy, read the comments, for the sake of the public interest, if it's amenable to everybody else.
I would support that. I am getting some emails from the public that the statement that those public comments were not going to be read, or that they were just going to be due to any content related to this meeting, was not on the agenda. And I do understand that based on the previous Brown Act training that we received, that the process has changed from before, because I remember we used to read all comments, and it just sounds like we've learned we were doing it incorrectly. But because it wasn't stated on the agenda and shared with the public, I would also ask kindly, Mayor, if we could please read those comments, because I am getting some emails.
I mean, we can limit the time per comment too, if that's helpful, but I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not the legal expert here. We don't really have an attorney on the city council, and I certainly want to go by the agenda tonight. So I know our city attorney tonight kind of described the agenda to us tonight as written on the agenda, and so I do want to really abide by the legal counsel. But let's check in with our city attorney tonight to maybe provide us more information as to how we're being presiding over this agenda tonight.
Sure, Mr. Mayor. Just because this is a special meeting, it's governed under the Brown Act of Government Code Section 54954.3. And unlike regular meetings in a special meeting, the body does not, they're not required to allow public comment on any non-agenda items. So that's specifically what I stated at the beginning of the meeting. That's what's stated in the agenda. While you're not required to do so, that's the statutory language. It says you're not required. So I'll leave it to your discretion. How would you like to proceed? But based on the Brown Act, because this is a special meeting, there's no requirement to read any non-agenda related items.
As city
Okay.
attorney,
Well, I appreciate that, and that is the law, and I take heed to our city attorney this evening. I do see a virtual raised hand, Vice Mayor Nunez.
Yeah, so if I could ask the city attorney, is this the first time we're applying that rule?
I don't believe so. I think generally in special meetings, that's that's normally the way things are handled. Okay. But again, it's not a requirement. So.
Okay, so city manager, do you know if this is the first time we're applying it? As I'm listening to the two council members, I'm just trying to figure out, one, how many comments do we have? And are we doing something different this time than we have done in the past? So I heard you, city attorney, it's our discretion. If this is something we've always done, then we should stick to it. If it's something we've not done, I just would ask why we're applying it now. But if there's one versus 600 is my question.
Question is to the city manager.
Yeah.
My recollection is that you had taken comments in the past, and my understanding is from speaking to the city attorney before this meeting, is that was an incorrect procedure of the council, and the correct procedure is as listed on the agenda, and just noting on the agenda that, and for the public's understanding too, that it does state that those interested are invited to address the city council and the planning commission on the agenda item listed below. So it is listed on the agenda. It was noticed. It was just for the item that was listed, just so everybody has that understanding.
And so tonight we have a special meeting
with the Planning Commission to solely discuss on the agenda, which everybody has, the general plan. And so I'm here to talk about that tonight. If there's other topics, I think that would be agendized for another night. We do have Mr. Ritchie here. I do want to wrap up the actual agenda item, if that's okay, before we move forward. I want to thank Ben Ritchie for joining us tonight. Thank you for your work. I do want to conclude your work before we have any other discussions not on the agenda tonight. And so thank you. Let's all thank Mr. Ritchie for being here tonight. I don't think we have any more comments on the item. I'll look for the virtual raise hand. Let's see who we got. Councilmember Dominguez.
Thank you very much, Mayor. And I will go ahead and lower my hand on the queue. I definitely want to thank Steve for the clarification on the direction that has been given regarding the agenda. So that makes me feel a lot better. My recommendation and my request at this time is that those 3 comments that came in through the queue, could we push them to the October 6th and not ask those people to resubmit those comments and then read them then? If it sounds like the city attorney, it's not a requirement, and it sounds like it is up to the discretion of the council. And so at this time, I would like to request for that to happen. I just want to make sure that the community feels that we're not ignoring them, and that as we all knew this new procedure, since it's the first time we're doing it, I do believe that we owe it to them to fulfill the request. So thank you so much, City Manager, and thank you very much, Mayor, for the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo your statements. When we have our regular meeting, we can continue to hear the public comments, but tonight is really all about the general plan, which is agendized. And so, tough clarification, but thank you, City Attorney. And so, yes, let's hear those comments at the next regular meeting, which is a different format than tonight. So I think that wraps up all the input. Okay, I see a virtual raise hand here. Let's see, Vice Mayor Nunez.
Thank you very much. So I do want to agree with the council member, with Councilmember Dominguez, and I want to thank. If what we're doing is actually going to put it on and move them over, I do think that's the best way to address this, given what we just heard. But I also want to make sure that's what we're going to do. Is that what we're doing, City Manager? Is that what you heard? Is that what you're going to do?
That's what I heard you directed staff to do. So
okay,
we will make sure that
thank
happens.
you, thank you. So I want to thank both the mayor and Councilmember Dominguez for really resolving an issue that I saw come up, and we took care of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, great. So with the general plan update, the discussion we had tonight, I want to thank everybody actually, from the council, vice mayor to the plan commissioner, commissioners, the vice chair and the chair, city staff, the whole city manager's office. Thank you for the presentation tonight, and everybody get some rest, and we'll march on come next time. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.